Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be able to join me on this particular webinar, focusing in on the 8 essential features of Smart Supplier Scorecards. My name is Sam Jenks. I'm the CRO at Kodiak Hub, and I'll be guiding you guys today through the content of the importance, of course, scorecarding your suppliers. Also, though, as a supplier relationship management provider of software and services, we'll give you some of our best tips and hints as to the essentials that we see a Smart Supplier Scorecard will contain. Today, I'm also joined by my co-host, as I typically am. Of course, I have the lovely Dave Olson in the background from our marketing team, who's going to be helping us to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So if you have them, put them in the chat bubble. But as you see here, I'm also joined by Charlie, the office dog. He's hanging out in the meeting room with me right now. So if he gets opinionated, he might share his opinion about today's content. You never know. He loves supplier management, so he might have something to say. We will definitely, like I said, get around to a question and answer session at the end. Today's session is also recorded, and that will be distributed directly following the event. And we will also have some assets that we will be handing out, and those will be available for download directly through this event as well. Without further ado, then, let's get into the content of today's session. First and foremost, for those that don't know about us at Kodiak Hub, let's simply just first and foremost, give a little bit of background about us. Kodiak is a provider of supplier relationship management software solutions. We have a modular, scalable platform which allows our customers to be able to manage their supplier information, data, and documentation, build deeper insights about the risk, compliance, ESG, and performance profiles of their suppliers, ultimately to drive intelligence in their businesses and drive innovation and impact within their broader supply chains. The solution itself is helping our clients to be able to build smart supplier scorecards. And that's one of the focuses that we're going to have today, our best practices that we see, how you're able to build a smart supplier scorecard, but also the importance in today's day and age of building smart supplier scorecards as well. The solution itself and the company was founded back in 2016 by our founder and our CEO, Malin Schmidt. She founded this tech company like most tech entrepreneurs do, right? Because she was sitting on your side of the table. She needed it. And there was a hypothesis at kind of the nucleus of the organization that has stuck with us since the inception of the organization and the inception of the technology, is that putting better and easy to use tools in the hands of strategic procurement professionals will be able to have a great impact on the strategic relationships that you're having within your supply chain and ultimately drive value within the procurement function. We believe that SRM will have the exact same impact on procurement that CRM has had on sales and marketing 15 to 20 years ago. We now see giants such as Salesforce, Pipedrive, HubSpot, these organizations that are rampant within their spaces. They've built huge market shares and are applied within just about any organization that has a sales force. If you have a sales force, you have a CRM. We think that that same alignment is going to be made with the procurement function in these coming 5 to 10 years as we see this new digital revolution within the procurement function. And the bottom line is that the sales function on the other side of the table, they have good tools. CRM systems have been an essential tool for sales teams. They're leveraging these tools to be able to come to the table as more informed sellers. And what does that mean? Is that it puts the procurement function as a disadvantage. You're not able to have the same types of insights and learnings and come to your meetings with the same actionable insights that a seller potentially is able to do in the same manner with their CRM solution. We see that, why would procurement be left behind and not have these tools to be able to leverage their supplier relationships? Here's the fact. This is where everybody's stuck today. It's hard to get any value out of your supplier relationships if your supplier relationship management looks like this. Excel hell spread out in various spreadsheets on local servers, SharePoints. It's very tough to be able to drive any type of collaboration or innovation. If you're having struggles to be able to drive it internally, it's very difficult to drive it with external parties as well. And this is some of the kind of pitfalls that our solution at Kodiak, but also just supplier relationship management as a process and as a thought is trying to avoid. What we see in a recent study that we've done together with ProcureTech, this, by the way, is a white paper that is, I think, over 100 CPOs that were interviewed for this. CPOs, procurement leaders, primarily within Europe, as well as then a few within North America as well. This particular asset and this white paper also exists on our website if you'd like to download it. It's an interesting read. It is very much focused on supplier management and supplier performance management as well, and leveraging those relationships across the life cycle. From our research that we did there, we saw that only 28% of respondents use supplier relationship management software to integrate performance data throughout the supplier lifecycle. Not very many. The question here, though, is why, right? Considering what we also found is that just 7% of the respondents in this survey were using intelligence within their supplier lifecycle management, and 100% of performers that were top performers were using a minimum of 3 tools. So if top performers are definitely using tools to manage performance in the supplier lifecycle, then why would not everybody be looking to be able to do the same? It's a pitfall that we see a lot of businesses fall into, right? The choice to do nothing. SRM can be a difficult business case for clients to be able to build, but it's one that we're hoping that we can be able to give you a little bit of armor to be able to go ahead and build that business case with today. I wanted to, before we get into some more content, run a quick poll for everybody in attendance to understand where are you within your supplier relationship management journey, just to understand the audience that we have today. So I'm going to share now a poll, which you will see pop up. Please let us know, which type of tool do you use currently to manage your suppliers? Are you kind of stuck still in this spreadsheet, Word, PDF format? Are you utilizing homegrown solutions? Do you have software, but you see it to be legacy software? Or do you have a dedicated SRM platform like Kodiak in place today, as some of the top performers we see do? All right. We'll just wait a second more. See, about 44 people of the 62 attendees have responded. And overwhelmingly so, we see in the response values here that about 80% of those in attendance are still stuck in kind of in the classic spreadsheet, Word, PDF, share files, which we totally understand. It's tough to be able to move out of that format. And I mean, this aligns pretty decently. Actually, the attendance here today is even lower as far as statistics of those that are managing supplier relationships with dedicated SRM solutions. So hopefully we can be able to inspire you guys as to what a really modern supplier relationship management tool can be able to help you to do to, again, get a little bit out of this Excel hell that I think a lot of us kind of drop into. This is a classic quote that I can't urge everybody to push on enough within your organizations. If you're not measuring your suppliers, then how the heck are you going to manage them, right? And I think that this is also at the core of the thought of smart suppliers and smart supplier relationships, but also smart scorecards, is turning information into actionable insights. Because again, on the sales side, that's what businesses are doing within their CRM. Obviously, change is necessary, whether it's Kodiak or other modern solutions. I urge you guys to get out there, look at what's on the market, to be able to understand how you can start leveraging your supplier information and turning that into some type of actionable intelligence about your supplier base. For us, Smart Supplier Scorecards starts with exactly that, SMART. This is a classic acronym. As an American, I wouldn't be allowed to run a webinar without saying at least one acronym. For SMART, we're talking about, of course, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely goals. It's very important with the specificity, of course, of your goals. It's important, of course, that you make these measurable. The measurable aspect, I think, though, is very important because there needs to be relativity within your measurements. And that's also where the relevance to things comes in. You need to be making sure that within your supplier scorecards, you're comparing apples with apples and oranges with oranges. That means that you need something that's configurable within your organization, within your industry, within the categories of suppliers that you're addressing, because it's important, of course, that your suppliers are experiencing that they're being managed on various KPIs, whether it be related to compliance, ESG, or performance, aligned with the things that are most relevant to them, right? The fact is that smart supplier management and smart supplier scorecards, they're not so smart if you're not getting the engagement from your supplier base. And that's one of the aspects that's incredibly crucial. And we'll talk a little bit more about today, how it is that you open up interfaces to your suppliers that can really make sure that they are engaging with you and your team. What we see here on screen is like kind of this classic S to P process map. And maybe you guys have one of these flying around in your organizations today. How are we going to build our tech stack, you're thinking, right? How are we going to be able to put tools in place that are going to be able to fulfill the source to pay process? The one thing that I think is a little bit of a shame in a lot of these kind of classic S to P process maps is that when you look at the space of supplier relationship management, it's seen as kind of a moment in time, right? It's an element following, strategic and category strategy. Once you've implemented the category strategy, then you manage the relationship with the supplier and move on, because then it's contract management and it's spend management and the like. For me, and for our organization at Kodiak, and what I think is the broader kind of accepted formatting of supplier relationship management is just that. It's a life cycle approach. It needs to be integrated from start to finish of the source to pay process. And I think that there's a lot more intricacies within relationship management when you then look at it from a life cycle and more holistic approach as well. I mean, it's kind of running alongside in a lot of ways the resources that you're planning. And of course, the good or service that you're buying, that's the data sitting within your ERP, there's a relationship being managed throughout the life cycle. And I think that that's the same approach that one needs to be able to take when looking at SRM as a discipline as well within your organization. It's not a snapshot in time. It's something that is an end-to-end approach and needs to be continuously iterated upon as well. One of the things that we've also seen as kind of I would say a shift, a paradigm shift within the organization, within the organizations that we're working with, but also the market, is the adoption of kind of, instead of these all-in-one solutions, the adoption of more best-of-breed solutions. And this is an inspired model by our friends over at Arclet. They're doing great stuff within the source to contract space. This particular model shows that, various solutions that you guys are choosing to be able to fill the gaps in your organization, they don't need to fulfill everything all in one, right? As long as you're building an integrated ecosystem that, of course, is focused on data quality and data flowing between solutions, then the ability to be able to leverage multiple solutions in a broader source to pay focus is incredibly important. Why, of course, is because not everybody can be able to do everything great. It's the difference of going to the grocery store to pick up all of your ingredients for your dinner, or deciding to go to the local butcher and the local bakery, right? And your local grossist of vegetables. It's going to be more quality produce, more quality meat that you're putting on the table for that dinner. This is the best of breed approach that I think a lot of organizations are starting to adopt. And we've seen that this approach also gives companies a lot more agility to be able to manage their suppliers in a way that they really need to. The bottom line is that this is a complex question, right? How do we make sure that we build a central data source of all of the data that's out there? Well, Kodiak has an approach to this. Our approach is to make sure that we become the spider in the web, right? And I think that any SRM solution that you're focusing on trying to build smart supplier scorecards within, or for example, just trying to manage the day-to-day of your supplier relationships within, this needs to be the focus. ERP solutions, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen, these particular modules need to make sure that they're feeding the data in and out, pushing and pulling data to make sure that there's data quality between the solutions. The supplier data, of course, being able to feed in from the external stakeholders, your internal stakeholders, as well as though third-party data sources, market intelligence that might be out there related to risk, related to sanctions, related to politically exposed persons, whatever it might be, it's important to make sure that you're feeding in to a 360-degree view. So you're not just utilizing structured data that's already in your organization, for example, within the ERP, but also unstructured data, qualitative data that typically is lost throughout the relationship management of suppliers within the supplier base, but also within your internal stakeholders as well. This is the end goal, right? And I'm not going to spend too much time on this particular interface because we are going to jump into the solution itself and look around in our supplier scorecard. And the supplier scorecard itself is really the amalgamation. It's the control center. It's the, the cockpit for you guys to be able to manage your relationship with suppliers. And this is really what the end state is that we're trying to get to. But of course, the road there is not simple, right? I mean, it's not a quick, easy fix. We're not telling the time at Kodiak, right? Typically, we talk about this. We're not just telling the time. We're building the clock. And I think that that's also the approach that one needs to have when related back to SRM, is that this isn't a one-time overnight fix, right? Again, it's an end-to-end life cycle approach that needs to be within your organization if you're going to be able to adopt this properly. This is a friendly reminder, though. Your suppliers are not a commodity, right? And their data is not a commodity. Again, to be able to reach the pinnacle of really driving impact and innovation, collaboration together with your suppliers, you need to make sure that you're treating them as a partner, as a friend, as somebody also that's going to have a good user interface and a good user experience. It's all too often that we don't focus on the supplier experience, that we are solely focused on our experience. How is our process going to run? Are we going to be able to have the correct workflows on our side to be able to approve a supplier or not, right? But what is that experience for that supplier? Do they have to have 4 different login portals? Do they have to, for example, receive phased out different assessments that are irrelevant to them? Do they have a clunky interface that's not really guiding them around? It's very important that we remember that we have one chance to make a first impression, and it needs to be a good one as well when we're working with our suppliers. And unfortunately, I think that's something that this is something that's not taken so seriously in some organizations. You know, giving a spreadsheet to somebody to fill out is not a good first impression. And I know that that's where some of the companies in this session are today. But of course, we're showing the alternatives also of how you can be able to really advance in those areas. SRM is a really, how would I say? It's a crucial function, but it's real pinnacle. The things we're trying to achieve: driving performance, driving collaboration and innovation, driving impact in our supply chain. These strategic elements of the supplier relationship. Getting here is not simple, right? We need good process. We need good framework. We need good tooling to be able to support our journey to be able to reach the pinnacle of supplier relationship management and really drive forward those relationships in a manner that is going to bring you and also the supplier value. All right, the meat and potatoes of the session, the 8 essentials to smart supplier scorecards. I think now everybody understands why supplier management is important and why really having these 360-degree insights about your suppliers are also incredibly crucial. What we're going to walk through now are the 8 essential features of what we see to be on smart supplier scorecards, those that are specific, measurable, they're relevant, and also time-bound. These are 8 different areas. There's a lot more to our scorecards and to, for example, scorecards that you guys have the capabilities to be able to build in your own organization if you look at internal alternatives, of course. But this is the ways that we see, of course, our customers leveraging our supplier scorecards and our capabilities to be able to really build this 360-degree view that our customers have learned to love. Number 1, and we'll go into these, of course, in the demonstration of the platform in just about 10 minutes as well. The first one is getting that data in order, right? Making sure that you have your information, data, and documentation all in one place, all under one hood, so that it aligns the data quality in your organization. It's simpler for your teams to be able to collaborate. But the other aspect that's very important here is not just, for, category management or typification, segmentation of your supplier base, but it's also important that you open up interfaces to your suppliers to be able to register their own information, but also update as well as then cleanse their own information once they have information in the solution as well. This then allows, of course, for more self-service, which is then reducing the amount of time that you and your team is going to have to be spending on supplier information or data management as well. Second aspect, contracts and documentation. A supplier's, honestly bound, the relationship that we have with them is bound by the contract that we have with them. And it's very important that we keep an eye on contracts. Our solution and what we feel is most important is that in the same view that you have your supplier information, well, of course, you should have the documentation associated with that supplier as well. Our document management capability allows our customers to typify documents, keep them filed, keep the expiry dates, as well as then the audit trail of when things were uploaded, who uploaded them, filter and search for things very quickly, but also, of course, have automated reminders, both to suppliers as well as then internal stakeholders when things are going to run out. We'll get into the solution and show a little bit more of this live as well. But this is a crucial element, of course, to be able to make sure that you guys are able to backtrack and have, of course, an audit trail of the documentation that's shared. Not only contracts and commercial documentation, but of course, any type of compliance related documentation as well, which is increasingly important with all of the different types of legislations that are hitting us, especially within the EU, but they're going to be stateside in no time. Of course, related to a supplier is a contract. And then, of course, the last element, which is the product and service that they're providing us with. This multidimensional view and relational view of the supplier to the contract to the product is incredibly important. And this is one of the aspects that I think, smart SRM solutions can be able to provide one with. And this is then that data scope, I think, that helps our customers to really get down to the component or commodity level, allowing them to also not only be able to see compliance based upon the supplier, but also down to the commodities that they're being provided with as well. The fourth element is knowing your supplier. These are one of the first snapshots of kind of how our modular capabilities help our customers to be able to spot and track risk. This is then broken down in our organization and our solution into a few different areas. So macro or country risk. There is then also sanctions and politically exposed persons monitoring. There is financial risk, as well as then also there is media monitoring within our platform as well. What this is trying to do is give kind of a holistic third-party risk and reputational view. So you walk into any type of relationship you're having with your supplier with your eyes wide open as to what the market's saying about your supplier or what the market intelligence is that's out there, right? The other thing that's important here, though, is that our supplier scorecards as smart supplier scorecards are focused not only on just using our preferred third-party vendors, which we, of course, have natively integrated into our interface, but we also welcome the bring your own license methodology. And it's within our methodology because we want to make sure that we're building 360-degree views, no matter if you're using data sources that are, licensed via us or, for example, licensed via another third party as well. The importance is that you have this cockpit to be able to spot third-party risk. The fifth element is communication, collaboration, and actions. I mean, if you spot risk, it's important that you have the ability to be able to communicate with your suppliers. We have a full-on communication and collaboration portal within our platform where you can be able to manage nonconformities, corrective actions, improvement proposals, so forth and so on. What this also allows our customers to do is to open up an audit trail of communication. It's very important, especially when we come back to these elements related back to more so third-party risk, but also related to compliance, especially within the EU, that there is an auditable aspect of the different types of communications that you're following up with within your supplier base. So for example, some of the requirements that have come, especially within CSDDD, as well as them, for example, within LKSG, not only are showing that you need to be able to report on the fact that you are following up with certain aspects of due diligence in your supply chain, but also if you've seen problems that you have issued some type of a corrective action. And this, of course, helps with that auditability of the solution as well. Sixth element, ESG and compliance profiles. This is data captured from self-assessments of the supplier, as well as then also you can be able to audit that data as well on our platform. This particular feature allows our customers to be able to understand a wide criteria of ESG and compliance ratings, which gives them a snapshot of the operational risk of a supplier, but also helps them to be able to report on different things that are very important to CSR. This, of course, is not just about capturing data and documentation, but it's also, of course, being able to flag risks and help our customers to spend their time in the right place. The rating methodology, which is completely configurable to a customer's KPIs and or utilizing our out-of-the-box best practice library, these particular things are, really focused on helping our customers to spot risk and opportunity faster. Again, so you're spending less time on the operational manual tasks and more time driving strategic relationships within your supplier base as well. The last element, and this is where things start getting really fun, is managing and monitoring performance. This is, of course, something that is a little bit more, I would say, a lot of our more mature customers are getting around to. Why it's difficult sometimes is because this is a focus on not just capturing qualitative data, for example, in the same way that you're doing within the supplier self-assessments or in audits, from suppliers or from auditors. But this data is being fed in from two different primary data sources in a lot of our customers that have matured enough to be able to do so. One of which is the hard data from ERP. So, for example, really empirical data, OTIF, on-time delivery, right? Quality on parts per million, so forth and so on. But also the soft data, for example, related to collaboration or engagement of the supplier base, their flexibility to be able to deliver, their response times, the amount of times that they come with innovation ideas. All of these things between the qualitative soft elements, as well as then the hard quantitative data, are aggregated up into a performance overview, which allows our customers to be able to see weighted and rated areas, which you can also drill down into specific KPIs, see value progression over time, which is also then one of the most important things in our solution, which we believe is kind of that the eighth element of a smart supplier scorecard, but really the foundation to our supplier scorecards as well, right? Is focusing on weighted supplier KPIs that have a historical view, allowing our customers to be able to track value progression, but also drill down and also zoom out. The rating methodology, again, is not just a focus on here and now. It's a focus on not just reporting, it's a focus on creating results. And that's one of the elements of our platform that we're really, really, gung-ho about, is that we're not just a solution for being able to report. We are a solution that we're trying to help our customers to drive forward the relationships. And I think that anytime you're looking at a reason as to why you're scorecarding your suppliers, if you're just trying to report, then you've started in the wrong end, right? You have to remember and think about, what is the end in mind? Well, the end in mind is to build more collaborative relationships. It's to drive performance. It's to be able to drive impact in my supply chain, right? And I think that if you start with that mindset, then of course you're going to be able to drive those supplier relationships in the right direction, not just being focused on reporting, but being focused on results. So that was our 8 different elements of smart supplier scorecards. I'm going to take a moment before I switch over to the demonstration, and we're going to get directly into it. What I'm also going to share now is the handout that we have. So feel free to download that. That will then provide you guys with the 8 different elements that we have just presented in a quick handout. If you're interested in more of the other slides that were provided, then feel free to get in touch. All right, without further ado, then we are going to shift over to the Kodiak Hub platform and demo a little bit more of our supplier scorecards, showing you guys live, of course, how smart supplier scorecards can be able to support you. All right, welcome into the Kodiak Hub platform. For those that are wondering, yes, we are an online cloud-based software as a service, which means that you're able to log into the solution around the world. It's Azure hosted, and we are hosted in the EU as well. Just a little bit of those basic elements. Walking into the solution, I can be able to see my suppliers. I can do so, of course, in a global format if I would like to. I can also, though, be able to quickly see suppliers in a list format. Or, of course, I can, at any point in time around the solution, dive directly into supplier scorecards. We're not going to go through a full demonstration of the platform today. If you're interested in a demonstration, then we can be able to share a link so you can book some one-on-one time with our team to be able to see a demonstration of the platform as well. What we're really going to focus in on is, of course, the different capabilities in the supplier scorecard. But before I do so, I wanted to be able to give a quick orientation with the platform that gives an understanding of the underlying processes and or the underlying data captures that are leading to the insights that we're seeing in the supplier scorecard. The Insights tab, as you see here on the top, this is where you're going to be able to see your supplier data. It's where you can be able to see your suppliers with your data headings and tags, your different types of typifications. It's where you can filter out your supplier lists and or save supplier lists that you're trying to be able to find. It's where you can be able to add new supplier data, import supplier data, or export supplier data. Primarily with our customers as well, we always have an ERP integration and or a master data integration that is pushing and pulling the data that is in the solution back and forth to make sure if supplier data is being, for example, cleansed or updated by the supplier or by a user in our platform, that it's then mirrored in another solution as well. Impact is where you're impacting the relationship. We here are able to build up our assessments, audits, evaluations, and actions. This is then the capabilities where you're able to capture data. As we see here within assessment, as well as auditing and evaluation, the user workflow is very similar. You build templates that can be unique to a specific type of supplier or very generic. You run campaigns that are then send-outs that you can schedule out, and they automate the email pushes to your suppliers. Once the supplier is able to access those interfaces via smart links in their emails, you're able to get back reports. These reports are then what is giving you weightings and ratings on the supplier responses or on audit responses or on performance evaluation responses. The improve section is where you're able to then also initiate actions, monitor those actions, as well as then get any type of notifications about those actions as well. So smart supplier scorecards are, of course, nice, but it's also very nice to be able to have a broader view of your supplier base as well. That's what our intelligence capability is for, giving our customers, when they're capturing more data, the capability to be able to leverage some of these insights that we're talking about on the supplier scorecard, whether that be, for example, related to the rating profiles, or, for example, things such as the documentation, to be able to quickly spot and dashboard larger groupings, segments, or categories of suppliers based upon the data and documentation that's been captured via the various modules. This allows us to be able to stay on top of suppliers that are or are not compliant, those that are or are not top performers. It allows us to be able to dashboard various aspects. We have a data in, data out methodology, which means that you can also be able to do things like build up pivot tables if you're feeding in spend data into our solution and alike. Again, we're not going to have time for a full demonstration. I want to make sure that we focus in primarily on the supplier scorecards, which we just walked through a little bit conceptually, but we wanted to zoom around a little bit in the platform here to be able to check those out as well. Let's say that I want to be able to quickly find a particular supplier or grouping of suppliers. So, for example, I'll pull forward here both my strategic and my bottleneck suppliers. I want to make sure that it's approved suppliers, but also then, for example, maybe I'll add another filter into this to be able to just continue to kind of segment down the supplier list that I'm looking at. So, for example, I only want to be able to see suppliers in this grouping that are, compliant with our code of conduct. So then I'll apply that particular filter as well. And we see here these filtered lists can be able to give us a new grouping of the suppliers. So it's showing then a smaller grouping of the total number of suppliers hosted in the platform. And we're able to, of course, directly from here, jump into supplier scorecards. But we can also pre-save these lists for ourselves. So I could be a category manager that's interested only in being able to see a particular view, or maybe I'm working with compliance and I want to make sure that I always keep an up-to-date list of suppliers that are compliant with particular aspects. Well, of course, we could be able to save these particular views as well as our defaults. If I want to, I can also just simply search for an individual supplier. And from here, I can jump into a supplier scorecard. The supplier scorecard is, again, our 360-degree view. And we're going to check through this a little bit live now, some of the elements that we already looked through when we were in the slide deck. One of the things that I wanted to draw to everybody's attention first and foremost, though, is also the notification capabilities. In-app notifications allows us to be able to stay on top of the things that are most important to us. And it gives us a snapshot, for example, when different things have happened. Notes have been added, for example, on a particular supplier scorecard that I'm monitoring, or for example, that documents have been changed or added, ratings have dropped or changed, information has been updated. There's various triggers that we can be able to set up in the solution, whether they're in a process, for example, to approve a supplier or qualify a supplier, or for example, if they're just triggering us, to be able to spot a risk or an opportunity within the supplier base as well. Again, the focus is that you're not just spending time in these supplier scorecards, even though they're very sleek and nice to be able to look at, but you're spending time in them when it makes sense to you as well to be able to do so, making sure that you're spending time in the right places. The supplier data properties, again, supplier information management. We saw, of course, within this list overview, the first way in which you can be able to manage supplier information, right? Pre-saving lists and the like. We also then see that there's various data headings. These data headings are completely configurable to whatever our customer wants to be able to track with their suppliers. Equally so within, for example, the category trees that you're able to build up in our platform to be able to make sure that our customers are able to segment their supplier lists exactly as they want to. Again, if we jump into the supplier scorecard, this is then where all of the supplier data is housed. So we can be able to quickly find particular supplier data fields by just searching for those data fields. We can also be able to not only house, commercial information here, but just simple information like the contact details of a supplier, things that otherwise can be kind of clunky and not so simple to be able to get around to if we're utilizing, of course, spreadsheets and/or homegrown solutions for these types of features. Not only the information is housed here related to this supplier, but of course, then also the documentation. So again, back to the document section, this then allows us to quickly find documents based upon the fact that, for example, it is related to an attribute, which is then maybe compliance-based questions or alike. We can be able to search in the search bar for those documents. We can also find documents based upon their typifications. What we also see here is that documents not only have names, typifications, categorizations, but they also have a few data tags here. One of which is then the uploaded date. This is then going to give us an audit trail of who uploaded this document as well as when it was uploaded. We can also be able to see directly here the expiry date linked back to these particular documents as well, which can trigger then notifications not only to us as user, but also to the supplier to open up interfaces to them to share if that is what we want to be able to do. At any point in time, we can download documentation and recheck it if we would like to as well. Another feature of our document management as well is then the capability to be able to quickly send documents for signing as we would like to. So we'll see, for example, here, draft format. We can be able to send documents for signing as we would like to. Let's find a document here that's not sent for signing yet. So say that we want to be able to sign off on a particular policy. We can be able to then choose to start a signing flow. And our solution then has a direct integration with DocuSign, which allows us to be able to quickly punch in data about who's going to be involved in this particular signing process. What is going to be also their role in this signing process as well. And then we can be able to confirm, and it directly pushes us over to the document in DocuSign. So then we can be able to configure the document in DocuSign, allowing us to, within one simple flow, have the capabilities to be able to move between the Kodiak solution and the DocuSign solution. And also when the document is going to be signed, everything is reposited in this interface, just in the same way that, for example, any type of ISO documents, policies, codes of conducts and the like would be reposited in the solution when the suppliers share them with us in their onboarding or self-assessment as well. We can also, of course, be able to upload documents into the platform if we need to, just in the same way that suppliers can in the interfaces we give to them as well. There's also note-taking capabilities. This is one of the elements, of course, that's nice. Internal communication allows you guys to be able to communicate internally. And of course, you can set up notifications that when, notes are, added to a supplier scorecard, that you can be able to get pinged. And for example, as we saw directly in this particular view, say that I get this particular insight, I may want to just jump directly into that supplier scorecard. I can be able to do so based upon the notifications I have. What we also see in the supplier scorecard then is the third-party risk, the know your supplier capabilities. These are all of our preferred vendors on the right-hand side here that we're seeing directly licensed via us. Here, for example, we can be able to see directly the credit risk reading off of the VAT and company registration number of this business. Directly in the scorecard, then we're able to have the financial risk, and we can be able to set up, of course, notifications if there's changes in this particular financial risk. Media, we can be able to do searches for businesses where then it's scraping the web. This then can be able to pull up both news as well as then adverse media as we see fit. And of course, you can jump directly to any of these particular articles from the interface here. Safe Source Premium, which is then the sanctions and politically exposed persons check. This gives us an overview of then general information about this business, as well as then any types of links back, locations, sources of data, which the supplier or the business has been listed, linked subsidiaries, companies, shareholders, as well as then also politically exposed persons, special interest persons as well, which we can really drill down into as we see fit. So each of these features, of course, gives us a little bit of a snapshot of the risk that's out there about this particular supplier, related again to financials, media, and also then sanctions and reputational risk. The Safe Source rating allows us then to see 8 different areas. It's pulling from 40 different internationally recognized indices, which is then giving us a snapshot of the contextual risk in the country that this supplier is located within. In this particular instance, it is then Sweden. This particular supplier, it doesn't say much about them, but it says a lot about the context in which we're sourcing from them. So if we want to understand more about particular risks, then we can just dive deeper in and understand the indices that this particular data is pulling from in this country. Sustainable practices, again, pulling from the self-assessments and being able to be updated by audits. The performance capabilities, allowing us to be able to see the different types of KPIs that we're tracking. Are suppliers living up to our SLAs or not? Are we seeing then areas where we're seeing dipping performance? Well, we can always be able to see individual KPIs driven by internal stakeholder evaluations or data that's feeding in from the ERP and giving us a snapshot of over time how value is progressing. Again, giving us an opportunity to maybe step into a QBR with a little bit more armor, in our bag, telling our supplier that we know exactly how they are or are not performing, rather than having to be able to pull together things on the fly. Previous evaluations, self-assessments, audits, performance evaluations, we can be able to quickly find here. Any type of communication that's ongoing with the supplier, or for example, also things that have been archived. So we can be able to quickly find any communication linked back to this supplier. Say that we've put into place a corrective action plan. This is also nice, of course, because then it's auditable. We know that we've done this. We also have the capability, of course, here to be able to communicate in a portal between ourselves and the supplier. We can be able to request documentation, share documentation. All of these sub actions and the communication itself is completely configurable, as of course is any of the comms that you're doing within the supplier portal. And this is then accessed by the supplier themselves via smart links in their email. So it's simple and easy for them to be able to enter into as well. So they can be able to collaborate very simply back and forth with you. The beautiful thing is that say I'm out of office, no worries. Somebody else can be able to come into the solution, find, for example, any type of actions that have me as the person that is responsible for them. And maybe, for example, the status of these are in ongoing. And the type, of course, is something like, I don't know, related to corrective actions, improvement proposals, or nonconformities, because these are the things that we need to stay on top of. Then, of course, I can filter down as I need to be able to find, of course, the actions that are necessary for me to be able to maybe take on and dig deeper into as a user. Getting back again, just quickly to the supplier scorecard as we round out some of the things that we also wanted to be able to show, of course, products and services. So again, the link, the multi-dimensional element is so important. Here, for example, we can be able to see any products, but also commodities that are linked back to this particular supplier. So we can dive into the other side of this particular relationship, right? We have a relationship with the supplier, but we also have a relationship with the product or services and or commodities that they're providing us with as well. This is where, for example, we can build up product pages. These product pages can then contain, of course, composition of these products, as well as then the purchase orders, as well as then documentation, of course, linked back to these particular products, which of course gives us a first jump start on any type of product compliance requests that our customers are going to have. What it also does, though, is it links back who in fact are the suppliers that are then associated with this commodity version and or, for example, product that we're being provided with. This is a Smart Supplier Scorecard, and I understand, of course, that's, some people sitting in today are probably tired after hearing this session, thinking to themselves, oh, we'll never be able to get there. My suggestion would be start somewhere, right? Our solution is modular. I know that a lot of solutions that are out there are modular. The focus, I think, needs to be on understanding, where supplier relationship management is going to impact your business and what it means for you. And then starting to be able to investigate the market that's out there. It's vast. We're not the only provider on the market. There are really worthy opponents and rivals out there. And I think that the most important thing is that you understand how you're going to be able to turn your supplier relationships into smart supplier relationships. So with that said, I'm going to now stop the sharing of my screen, and we will take some time to be able to do a question and answer session. In the meantime, I'm going to issue a poll here. So like I said, if you guys want to book a one-on-one conversation with myself or someone in my team, feel free then to go ahead and click the link that's on screen there. And you can be able to then simply find some time in the schedule that works for you to be able to book a deeper demonstration of the Kodiak Hub platform. Going to just take a moment here that we're going to get through some of these questions. There was a lot of questions that came in. Cheryl, thank you for your engagement. Quite a few questions from you. Charles, Britta as well. All of these questions, I would suggest that maybe you guys book a demonstration if you would like to see more about the platform, considering the number of questions that we have here. All right, we'll try to do our absolute best to answer as many of these questions as possible. There was quite a few that came through. And like I said, if you feel like you need to get more clarity on the questions that you have, then feel free to be able to book some time in the link that's been shared with you now. Peter asked, score rating to the supplier. Where does the supplier give feedback and improvements, etc.? So the supplier rating is built upon a few different elements. It could be then self-assessments, audits, and performance evaluations, as well as then, of course, the country risk parameters, which is driven by 40 internationally recognized indices. That's an out-of-the-box country rating as well. When it comes to the supplier score related to their operational risk or ESG aspects in the sustainable practices space, that particular data is coming then from suppliers themselves having interfaces via the self-assessment links. So you can be able to build up questionnaires, issue those to them, and then also get that data back. The responses that you're getting are weighted and rated because you are able to set up your predefined criteria of what's excellent and what's poor within your organization. So of course, any of the insights that are coming back are then aligned with your KPIs. Charles asked, can we see how it demonstrates category management in a matrix form or otherwise? We can absolutely try and address that on a separate session. So Charles, I would suggest that maybe you reach out separately and we could be able to do so. Cheryl asked, do suppliers just come from our database? Yes, that is true. So this is an important aspect of our solution. Again, we're not telling the time, we're building the clock. There's other solutions out there that have great databases, EcoVadis, for example, Integrity Next, and many others. And those particular databases share, a particular element of supplier data related to ESG or alike. Our solution is focused on helping our clients to be able to manage their suppliers, much like CRMs are focused on helping sales teams to manage their prospects, their leads, and their customers as well. When we see here is Adobe Sign available within the solution. So currently today, we only have an integration with DocuSign. So we can absolutely, though, investigate other signing solutions. We're doing that currently for a few other customers. It kind of aligns with our bring your own license, but DocuSign currently is our preferred vendor, just mainly because our current customer base has that as their primary solution across the masses. There is then a question from Britta about Dora. We love Dora. So the financial sector, you guys I know you need to follow up with vendor risk in line with Dora. And this particular capabilities exist. Of course, we've built out templates in best practice library that we have that are related to Dora and or KPIs that are related to Dora. So you could be able to get inspiration there and or utilize some of the content that we have in the platform. So we have impact data managers that are continuously scanning for new types of legislations and regulations that are important for our clients and or the markets and that we're serving. And of course, building up different types of best practice questions that are important to be able to ask as well, so that you guys have a little bit of a background for your reporting capabilities as well. There was then another question here. Is it possible to integrate other third-party relationship management tools? Absolutely. It depends which ones. Like I was talking about before, though, we have, for example, out-of-the-box relationships, even though we're not resellers of their services at all. So again, bring your own license capabilities with, for example, Dun & Bradstreet, EcoVadis, Credit Safe, Integrity Next, Rapid Ratings, and many others. Where does the technical soft data come from? So as we were talking about, it's from either assessment questionnaires from your suppliers. That's one element of soft data. I think soft data can also be considered to be from audits, as well as then the other aspect is from internal performance evaluations that you can be able to manage the build, but also the automated send out through the platform as well. The qualitative data is then, again, captured through those internal stakeholder evaluations. The beautiful thing that I didn't mention is that you can issue to multiple stakeholders. So say, for example, that you have a quality stakeholder, a project stakeholder, as well as a procurement stakeholder that are all involved with the same supplier, then you can be able to, of course, issue 3 different assessments, and you can be able to then aggregate up those 3 different evaluations that you're getting back from the internal stakeholders on the different areas of qualitative performance as well. Can we integrate HubSpot and the onboarding suppliers be integrated? Can integration versus HubSpot and onboarding suppliers be integrated into HubSpot? I think that this is asking pretty much, can there be a data flow between our solution and HubSpot? We have this, for example, with some of our customers with Salesforce, so I don't see why HubSpot would be a problem. I mean, our solution, for example, has an open API architecture, and we have a middleware which makes then pushing and pulling of supplier data or KPIs pretty simple as well between our solution and other solutions. So it would just mainly be, what is the trigger of that data share, and also when is it being shared, so forth and so on. So there was a question about spend data. So Britta, related to the spend data, if you, of course, are having spend data that you want to feed in the platform, which we would always suggest from a financial system, it would just be a hookup to that solution and or exports via Excel to be able to get the proper spend data into the platform. This, in my opinion, is where things start getting really interesting, because it's tying back the commercial value of that particular supplier, how much you're buying for, right, with some of the aspects that are very important to the more qualitative or quantitative data that you're capturing, related to, for example, their risk or ESG profile, or, for example, to their actual performance profile. There's different types of ways that we can leverage that in our intelligence section as well. So, for example, creating bubble charts, so you could be able to plot on one side of a graph something like quality performance, and on the other side of the graph you can plot something like commercial performance. So you could be able to see, for example, that a business that has low quality performance but has high commercial performance, you're spending a lot of money with. Well, maybe that's a reason to be able to adjust your spend and move it to another supplier, maybe within the same category. So there's some different types of capabilities there that are in the insights that also then combine the spend data with the other insights that you're getting. So that's a great question. I think that's about how many questions we're going to be able to take currently. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to be able to ask questions. If you still have questions that were not answered, feel free to reach out to me directly via email. My name, or my email, is my first name, last name @kodiakhub.com. You can also be able to, again, click on the link as you see here on screen and book a one-on-one conversation with our team. It is no strings attached. We are happy to be able to take a conversation if you're in an early stage of your journey, just to be able to inspire and or also understand your business needs. Feel free to be able to just book a one-on-one conversation with myself, or of course with any of our team. Thank you all for taking the time today. We appreciate your time. Directly following this event as well, when I close everything down, everyone will be receiving, of course, a presentation, or I'm sorry, the recording of the presentation as well. So you can be able to share internally or save it for a rainy day, whatever you want to do with it. Thank you so much for your time. Bye, everybody.